Although the Vietnamese were able to enjoy hundreds of years of peacetime, they were once again forced to fend off a new foreign invader, this time the French. They came into the country under the false pretense of wishing to only better the Vietnamese, but in reality they were there only to help themselves. France had the expectation of being able to bulldoze this small country with their superior technology and numbers, but fighting the Vietnamese has always proven to be a difficult task. The Vietnamese cherished their freedom greatly, and they would fight to the last man to keep it.
However, in the end, the overwhelming power of the French military was too much for the Vietnamese to hold off indefinitely, and they were once again possessed by another country, though it took the French 30 years to do so. The Vietnamese continued to fight back, but they were missing out on one important thing: a leader. And they found that leader in Ho Chi Minh. Though Ho Chi Minh came from humble origins, he would go on to become the single most influential figurehead that Vietnam would ever have. He spent his youth protesting and attempting to organize calls to action, but he was forced to move out of Vietnam because he was in danger of assassination by the French.
He wound up moving to France, of all places, where he became enamored with the idea of communism and saw its potential for unifying the Vietnamese people. During his time preparing for his return to Vietnam, people had begun to believe that he had died at the hands of the French. This would later work to Ho's advantage, as he would not come back a man, but a legend.
Ho's return to Vietnam was celebrated by his countrymen and lamented by the ruling powers. Public protests would be responded to with extreme violence, adding a sense of urgency the cause was lacking before. The amount of oppression the French dished out skyrocketed as a result of Ho's rabble-rousing. The oppression rekindled folk memories of centuries of Chinese domination and relit the fire of resistance in Vietnamese hearts. The Vietnamese could have just given up in the face of the technological superiority of their enemy, but with the help of a Vietnamese hero and in overwhelmingly harsh conditions, the citizens of Vietnam were forced to endure. The spirit of rebellion was reawakened within our hearts and minds of the Vietnamese people. The Vietnamese were sending wave after wave of their men and women to fight the French, but no sizable dents began to be made until World War II took Europe by storm and forced them to shift attention to fighting the Axis powers.
This was a bittersweet moment for the Vietnamese. On the upside, they no longer had to worry about the French, but now they had a whole new enemy to overcome: the Japanese. During World War II, the Vietnamese assisted the Americans in fighting the Japanese troops in the hopes that it would be allowed for them to keep their independence after the war was over.
After World War II came to a close, Vietnam declared themselves free as a result of the August Revolution. Vietnam once again was free, and one of the remarkable things is the lack of impact that French culture had on their own. The French had made many attempts to reform Vietnamese culture, though nothing wound up sticking other than their school systems. Vietnam's strong will and nationalism had once again prevailed in maintaining their cultural heritage and not allowing their aggressors to leave an impacting scar on their nation after they were ousted. Vietnam would not be celebrating for long, though, because France, in its state of economic turmoil after World War II, was not willing to let one of their moneymakers just walk away. And this time they would be bringing a friend with them, the United States.